And Gabriele, now I'll go through SAFE4SOC. So SAFE4SOC is the project I'm working on right now. Cedric is part of the project. It talks about standard alert format exchange for SOCs. The idea is to define a format, process and format to collaborate between SOCs. There are three major concepts. The gateways, IDMEFv2 gateways on commercial SIEMs. So here we're working with Splunk, QRadar, and RSA. The information sharing gateway is a component to filter information between SOCs. And this was really proposed by the Commission. It's a European project. I didn't realize first time how it's important, and I will explain why. And then we centralized the information to have AI detection in the centralized information. And maybe there are some detection you can make by gathering all the SOCs information in the same point that you wouldn't find if you take one SOC at a time. Of course, here we have 3 SOCs, but in a real world, it will be maybe 10, 20, 30, something like that. So quick schema. How does it work here? We have QRadar. With the QRadar alerts, we have a first gateway transforming QRadar in IDMEFv2, and then the information sharing gateway filtering what information is shared with a central hypervisor. So we do that with Splunk, with RSA. We also have directly CPSIM. CPSIM is call it CPSIM, I don't know. It's Concerto Cyber and Physical SIM, sending the information. And during the project, we created a little app sending information also in IDMEFv2. It's more a proof of concept. I will make a small demonstration, but it was a good opportunity to mix geolocation and alert in the format. So what is interesting, we took this format just to try to work on IDMEFv2. That was the basic goal. So we are producing quite a lot of code on the GitHub, Python and Java libraries to use to create IDMEFv2. But the format is simple, so you can even create with your own coding. But with the libraries, you will have the verification with the schema, etc. Online validator, I will show you at the end of the presentation. The idea is to have a place where you can put a generated JSON file and test if it's working. It was done, the first version of the validator. I've done it for the 7-shield format, for 7-shield project. But now we're turning it on a JSON, IDMEFv2 JSON wizard, I would say, because you have some examples, you can play some exercise, you try to learn a little bit to play with. It's not just a validator, it's something you can, after this presentation, you can connect, not everyone at the same time, and just have a look. So if you see, oh, okay, I understand this is working like this, like that. We're developing a lot of gateways. I call that gateways because I like to make a comparison between SMTP for mail and IDMEFv2 for security. Before, all the messaging servers, they weren't connected together, and someone invented SMTP to make the connection. IDMEFv2 is a little bit like that. So the same way you have a SMTP gateway in a Microsoft Exchange mail system, you will have a IDMEFv2 gateway in Splunk, Suricata, whatever. I'm not hoping that everyone is going to change all the system to put IDMEFv2 inside, but the idea is to have a gateway so you can correlate all the information. So actually, we're developing one for Suricata, for Splunk, for Suricata, Wazuh. We will have QRadar, RSA, Greylog, Elastic, maybe a gateway with the common alert protocol for natural hazard, OSCF that I talked about. The major part is the Concerto SIEM. Concerto is a fork of Prelude. You see the play on word of Prelude, which was the SIEM was managing for nearly 15 years. we used the OSS version, forked it, and adapted to IDMEFv2. So it's quite a big stuff because a lot of it have been reused, but really the GUI has been reused, but the backend is really new technology with Logstash, Elasticsearch, things like that, very robust. And the little app IDMF Android Alerter, again, it's more a gadget for the moment, but it's very interesting to challenge the geolocation alert, and it's something you can, it will be available in the Android store. So one use case I want to talk about that I found out during the project is I realized, because honestly, I was going to do this project just for finishing the draft. And actually, I found very, very interesting in this collaboration between SOCs. So let's talk about the army. I've worked a lot for French army in my industry past, and I think it's the same in all armies. There are a lot of different systems. A contractor, they do a system, their own security, another one. So there is plenty of different stuff. And this is represented by the color of the data. This could be Splunk, here QRadar, this what in the air, in the land. And the idea of IDMEFv2 is to be able to create an hypervisor for each army and a supervisor. And having worked in the army, I've seen this use case, at least in the Navy, in the air, and I've not done all the project, but it's obvious, it's important. And another use case I didn't know, I realize in SAFE4SOC is when you have a war, because unluckily there are many wars, and you have a framework nation, it's the chief of the army. When armies, here you have a framework nation with some assets, and there is allies coming. And typically, when you work together, and it's very important for what all they say about the European defense, they want to make people work together. So you have to have the army for different countries working together. And one major difficulty is that they have to collaborate. So you have to have interoperability. So IDMEFv is part of the solution, at least for monitoring all the incident detection. And incident detection, as you saw in the examples of Gabriele and Cedric, goes very far. When the soldier will be connected with a little GPS and all that, you can have the message going in IDMEFv2 saying their location, taking their heartbeat, etc. All you see. Of course, it can be done with other formats, but they will be proprietary, as IDMEFv2 can do the soldier, the tank, the server, the natural hazard, etc. And if you want to share, as allies, they're sharing information, but not all the information. Here, the famous information sharing gateway saying which attributes are shared is very important. So what are the feedback? I knew SIEM's formats were very different, but now we worked really on each of Splunk, QRadar, trying to compare the attributes. It's really a mess. The same concept, they don't have the same concepts. I think QRadar, I think it's offense or some other alert incident event, I don't know. Sometimes they have the same concept, but not the same name. So, for example, source IP can be source.ip, src_IP, etc., etc. So they don't have the same look and feel. And why is it a problem? It's a problem because when you pass from a SIEM to another, for the same job, you have to relearn everything. When you pass from a SMTP server or IMAP server or whatever to SMTP server, even if it's another brand, it's the same concept, the same for SNMP. That's very important. The way you lose a lot of time reinventing everything, as when you have a standard, it's good for that. And no place for physical security. And I announced to you today that in 2025, SIEMs are not SIEMs anymore. You can't pretend that you are having a security information and event management if you don't deal with physical. It was okay in 2005. In 2025, they should be called cyber security information event management. Remember that, that's very important. Another thing important is what happens in the SOC stays in the SOC. That's the major problem for collaboration. People don't want to share the information. And there, the information sharing get away, and we really confirm that with all the pilot and the project. They don't want to share information. But if you say we share only information like the source of the attack and not the target IP, because the target IP is private and the source is outside, then this is okay. So the information sharing get away, deleting information, anonymizing information, pseudo-anonymizing. This is a very, very important concept. SIEM, SOCs, PSIM, PSIM is physical SIEM. Interoperability, I think, should be a nation and an industry priority. We have attacks everywhere, hybrid attacks. You hear that all the day they're attacking on the net, on the disinformation, etc., etc. And we are still using different format. And I think we have a good opportunity with that. It would be a shame it wouldn't be used. And the last thing we learn, and that's part of the conclusion, is the standardization path is really complex. And I want to share this information with you before we finish, so I hurry. A small feedback for the coders. We are coding a gateway for ClamAV, and we realized that ClamAV used to be syslog, then they added JSON for the alert. But as they don't like to document, there is no documentation. So not only there is no documentation, but as the coders of ClamAV, they don't really know what is necessary for incident detection on the centralized part. So they put everything, even things not interesting. As if they go to IDMEFv2, it's already documented, and we already have thought about what was interesting. So it's it's better for them. They have less documentation, less coding. So that's very interesting. I didn't realize that not only it's a mess, all those logs with different formats, but it needed a lot of work of all those coders to reinvent a format. So everybody would be happy if there was the same format.